Hey guys, it's Alicia. Now today I am canning peaches. I just picked up, this is a half bushel right here. I actually picked up a full bushel, so I've got another box over on my island. But I'm gonna be canning some peaches, so I thought I would show you just how I do it. I am definitely not what I would consider a seasoned canner. I've only been doing this for a handful of years, and really the only thing I can anymore is peaches, because I just love peaches so much. I love to have them in the wintertime, so I can them every summer. If you have never canned before, you definitely want to consult with something like the Ball Blue Book or the National Center for Home Food Preservation, because you want to know exactly what you're doing when it comes to canning. I'm just showing you kind of how I do it. But like I said, you want to really know all the ins and outs of canning, because it can be dangerous if it is not done correctly. So you'll want to consult with one of those things. I will put a couple links down below for what I use, and that will give you the different like cook times and all that kind of specific stuff that you need to know when doing this. But I'm just going to show you what I do and how I do it. So actually I'll start right here. This is the Ball water bath canner. I just got this last year and I really like it. And I'm using this because I have a glass cooktop, which I also just got last year. And I was really concerned about this glass cooktop maybe not being meant to be canned on, because I have read that you need to be careful with the glass cooktops like this, because some of them will actually break if they get too much weight on them. And as you can see here, I've already got 3 different pots on here. And I didn't want to add a 4th really heavy water bath canner to this glass top, even though when I looked it up, it said it would be okay. I still don't. I didn't want to risk it because this was brand new. So I got this water bath canner and I love it. It is so much nicer than your traditional just water bath canner that you would do on the stove. It's a lot cleaner, it's a lot quicker, and I just love it. So I will put a link for this down below too if you're interested in the Ball canner. And this thing is good for not just canning, you can do other stuff with it. Now I haven't, but you can. And the way I do it is I just put my jars in there, because I also hot pack. And so I have to have my jars nice and hot before they get filled with the fruit and the liquid, and before they go in this canner. So I just keep my nice sanitized jars. I've already washed these in the dishwasher, and then I put them in here, filled it up with water, and I've got it on medium. And so that's just gonna keep these jars nice and warm at not quite a simmer. So when I'm ready to pack them with peaches, they are ready to go. So here in this pan, I have got a light syrup going. And that is 10.5 cups of water to 1.25 cups of sugar. Now, like I said, that's considered a very light syrup, but that is what I like to use. I don't like heavy syrup in my peaches. And the light one mimics more of the natural sugar content of the peaches themselves. So that's what I like to do, is just a super light syrup. So I've got that there, and I've just got that kind of heating. I don't want that to come to a boil yet. And here I have got a big pot of water that I am bringing to a boil, and this is what I'm going to be blanching my peaches in. And that just basically makes them super easy to peel. And then back there, I've just got another little pot of water with my lids and my rings, which I've already washed. And I'm just gonna keep those in there on kind of a low heat, and then when it gets closer to the time of actually using them, I'm gonna make sure that they are simmering for about 5 minutes. And that not only loosens up the glue that's on the lid there so that it adheres better to the jar, it also just keeps them nice and sanitized, because you don't want anything that's not completely sanitized going in or on your jars. You're gonna want to use an ascorbic acid solution. I haven't in the past, and it does make a difference. So here I just have basically my own homemade one. You don't have to buy the stuff that's at the store. All you have to do is crush a little vitamin C into some water, and it's going to do the same thing. So that's what I've got here. And what I use is roughly 3,000 milligrams of crushed up vitamin C to 1 gallon of water. So that is what I have there. And then you're gonna want to have a large bowl with some cold water. If you've got ice, that's even better, but my fridge's ice maker has currently stopped working. So I'm just gonna be using some cold water, and I'll be changing it out as I need to. And then I've just got a strainer to wash my peaches in, because you wanna make sure you wash your peaches really, really well before you do anything else. So I'm gonna wash those and then strain them in here. And then I've got another bowl to put the skins and pits and all that stuff in. So that's, oh, and my knife. I got a nice little paring knife there that I use. So that is everything that I have to get started. And the reason I have vinegar back there is because once I get this canner all filled with the packed jars, I'm gonna add a little bit of vinegar to the water, about a 1/4 cup, and that just helps with preventing hard water spots. We're on a well, our water isn't the hardest, but it does spot a little bit. So I just add that vinegar in there for that. And I will have some other stuff as I go along, but this is what we're starting with. So that water is looking pretty good. So I will put you up on the tripod and get to going. Okay, here are some of my peaches that I just washed. And so now I'm gonna just stick these in the boiling water here. And be careful not to burn yourself when you're doing this. And you're gonna just let these sit in here for anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. And I just make sure when they're in here that they're constantly being covered by the water. I don't mess with them too much, but the ones that kind of sit up on the top like this, I like to rotate around a little bit just to make sure all the sides are getting the hot water on them. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes, so I want to take these out and hopefully they are good. And I'm just gonna take them out with a slotted spoon and stick them in my cold water. And like I said, if you've got ice, that's even better, because you want to kind of cool these down, because you're going to be handling them, and they're a little hot. But you don't have ice, like I don't currently, cold water works too. So we're just going to remove all these out of here. And now I'm going to just take them and peel the skin off. And as you can see, that skin is peeling right off. I'm gonna dip that in there because that is really hot. There it is. That's bitter. Okay, now that I've got the skin off, what I do is the peach has just a natural seam. So I take my knife and I follow that seam all the way around until I've cut it in half, and then I kind of just wiggle my knife and pull it into two. Now, a lot of people will remove this middle part. I don't do that. I like to keep it as simple as possible, and I'm not as concerned as what the peaches look like as what they taste like. And I think a lot of people do the removal of that for aesthetic reasons, and that doesn't bother me any. Now, if it does have a little bit of the remaining seed on here, I will definitely cut that out. Otherwise, I just leave that on there. Now, you can either do halves like this, you can do quarters, or you can do slices. I like to slice mine because that's how I like to eat them. So I will just take my half and then slice it into my ascorbic acid water over here. Just like that. And again, just gonna cut down the center. Pop it open. And cut it into my water. And as you can see there, the seed just popped right out because I'm using freestone peaches, which is what you want to use. You can use the ones that are not freestone, but it's going to be a lot more work to have to cut those pits out of every single peach. To do 7 quarts, you're gonna need roughly 17 to 18 pounds of peaches. I've got 50, so you know, obviously I'm gonna be doing a lot more than 7, but that's what you're gonna be needing for 7 quarts. I think it's like 11 for 7 pints. I never do pints though. I always do the quarts. But anyway, I will be back once I get this bowl full of peaches. I have got this bowl filled to the brim with peaches. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take them, and I'm gonna just use this to kind of scoop them out, because you wanna take them out drained. So I'm just gonna take them out of here and drop them into my simple syrup here. And this syrup is hot right now, but I'm going to turn up the heat to high because I'm gonna put these in here, let this water come to a boil, and then I'm gonna start packing them. This is the hot pack part of this. If you don't want a hot pack, you don't have to. I've just personally found that it yields a better product. It drives off some of the air in the fruit's tissues, and it prevents them from floating as much. And I always have a problem with floating anyway when I do peaches, so anything I can do to cut down a little bit on that floating, I do. So that's one of the reasons I do the hot pack. But if you don't want to do the hot pack, you can raw pack them, and you would skip this step. You would just take the peaches and directly put them into jars and then cover with the hot liquid instead of bringing them to boil in the hot liquid. I'm gonna call that good. I still have some in here, but I'm gonna go ahead and just let them keep soaking in this water here, and they should be fine. And this is not gonna be all I need to do those jars anyway. So I'm gonna let this come to a boil, and then I will come back and show you how I pack them in the jars. And in the meantime, I'm gonna keep on going with processing more peaches, because like I said, I'm gonna need more than just this. So I will be back when this comes to a boil. Okay, this has come to a boil. So now I'm gonna turn off the heat, and then I'm gonna start packing these in jars. So just take one jar out at a time, and that way they will stay nice and hot, because you want them to be hot since you're putting such a hot product and liquid in it. Take my handy dandy little funnel here, and I'm going to just fill the jar up. Now I'm using wide mouth. I also use just the regular. I kind of just use whatever I have at the moment. And I don't know if I would say I would prefer the wide mouth. I don't think you really need a wide mouth if you're not doing like the halves. So I'm just putting these in here, and then I kind of give my jar a little shake, and be careful because the jar is hot, to get those peaches to settle, because I want to get as many peaches in here as I can, because 1, they won't float as much, and 2, I just like having really nice full cans of peaches. So that's probably good. So now I'm going to take some of this liquid, just pour it in here on top of the peaches, and you want to end up with a headspace of about a ½ inch from the juice to the top of the jar. And I still got a ways. So now take this little guy, and it also has different headspace measurements on here, and I do use these. The half is right here because my eye is not the best on telling what a ½ inch is. But anyway, you want to take this, you want to kind of burp your jar to get all the extra air bubbles out of there. And that's another thing that's going to help to keep from floating, or keep the floating down. So I just kind of go all the way around the jar like that. And that dropped it down a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit more liquid. See where we're at. That's pretty good. So now I'm gonna just set that aside and grab another jar. Okay, I got a total of 4 filled, and I've got just a few peaches left in here, and I'm gonna just leave them in there and probably add to them with the other ones that I am cutting up over there. Now what you want to do, and this is a very important step, you want to wipe down the edges of the jar, because you want to make sure the surface is as clean as you can get it, so that the lid has the best chance of sticking and staying and just getting a really good seal. So I like to just kind of take a damp paper towel, washcloth, whatever, and just kind of run it around the lid and make sure there's nothing on it. I've got that done. So now I'm gonna take my lids that I've got over here, and they were simmering, so they're nice and hot and sterilized. And I'm just gonna take my little magnet guy here, pull them out, stick them on. And then grab a ring, knock the water off of it, and just put it on finger tight. You don't want to like ratchet this thing on here, just finger tight. And these are very hot, so be careful. Just burned myself there. Okay, now that you've got these all lidded up, you're going to put them back in your water bath canner and just leave them in there in that hot water while you process the rest of the jars. And once I get the rest of my peaches cut up and processed into the jars, I will be back. And I actually thought I'd just show you really quick how I put these in here. There's a little wire rack on the bottom, and so I like to start with the center, and then I kind of offset them so that I don't move that rack around a lot, and they sit in here nice and evenly. Because the less chance they have to rock around in there, the less chance they have of breaking. Kind of like that. And then I'll do like these two next, and then those two. I've got the rest of the peaches packed in the cans and in the canner. And now I'm gonna add a little bit of the white vinegar that I was talking about earlier. And I don't measure this, I just kind of dump some in. To, again, help with any type of hard water spotting in here. I'm gonna put this little FreshTECH top thing on here. And that's supposed to help with the heat distribution. Put the lid on and crank it up to the canning setting. And then I'm gonna wait until this comes to a boil, and then I'm gonna let it continue going for 35 minutes. The processing time is gonna depend on different things, like what size you're doing, pints versus quarts. It's also gonna depend on what you're canning and also your elevation. So this is where referring to something like the Ball Blue Book is something that's really important. So, because you want to make sure you're processing this for the right amount of time. This has processed for 35 minutes. So now what I'm going to do is turn it off. Unplug it. And take the lid off facing away from me because it's still super hot. And then I'm going to let it sit here like this for about 5 minutes before I remove the jars. This has been sitting for about 5 minutes, so I'm going to take off the lid, which actually I could have done before. And then I'm going to just carefully take these out of here, and it looks like they all made it. I didn't lose any, which is always nice. And I'm going to just set them on a towel. You want to set these at least an inch apart or spaced from each other. And then you're gonna need to just kind of leave these alone for at least 12 hours. And I always just leave mine overnight before you really mess with them too much. But you will hear a lot of the time the lids popping as they seal, but I don't always hear it. But you'll be able to tell that they seal because right now there's a little kind of...
Nubbin?
Would you be serious?
Okay.
Right now there's a little kind of bump here in the middle. That's gonna pop down when these have officially sealed. So, like I said, I'm just gonna take these all out, set them on this towel here, and just let them set for at least 12 hours. And that is all there is to it. You can either take the lids off. I do. I like to take the lids off because if you don't, a lot of times they'll get kind of stuck. So I take them off.
You mean the ring?
Yes, the ring. You want to take the ring off because it'll get stuck. And I usually wash down my jars too because they'll have a little bit of kind of residue from the water in there on them. That's it. That is how I can my peaches. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.